It's not always going to be a fun time. And if you experience depression, if you are suffering from depression, rarely is it a fun time, but there's multiple different kinds of depression, correct? You can have, short spurts of depression where maybe you just randomly get depressed every once in a while. You could have long-standing depression where you've been depressed for months, for weeks, or perhaps throughout the day, your energy dips, goes up and down, right? All the different ways that you might experience this. But whether you are the most healthy person on the planet, the most mentally sound person on the planet, or the most depressed person on the planet, the fact still remains that it's not always going to be a fine and dandy time. We have to experience contrast in life in order to be here. It's a part of the experience. And when we are programmed, or when our mind is filled at an early age with certain ways of thinking, with belief systems, and then we go forth and have our life experience, and we experience negative things, positive things, whatever, and everything in between. It is in those spaces, in those experiences, in the ways that you've been taught to utilize your mind, in the ways that you've been influenced, in the ways that you've chosen to experience and to relate to your life experience, where these mental disorders, this mental disease, this global epidemic called depression is formed. It's formulated throughout your life experience. And when certain things go unchecked over a prolonged period of time, that's where you find certain states of being solidified into your neural network. That's why oftentimes, or perhaps you have not heard of this, there are people who speak about reprogramming yourself. So imagine you have a nervous system, right? If you were to isolate your bodily systems, you could see your skeletal system, you can see your muscular system, you could see your nervous system, you could see your cardiovascular system. So these are isolated forms of a whole body. So let's isolate down to the nervous system. This is a very particular neural network. And when your brain is programmed, you are operating in a very particular way over and over and over again. And so this is why you have thought forms that are more prevalent than others in relationship to other things, and in relationship to specific aspects of your life. And it all comes together into one. So when we reprogram, you can imagine yourself walking a trail for, let's say, 100 years. And over that 100-year period, you will see the indentations in the road. When you reprogram, you start to walk down a different path. What happens? The growth starts to cover up that initial trail, and then you are creating a new path. And if you walk that new path over and over and over and over again, guess what happens? You start to create a new neural network, a new neural pathway. And this is ideally being done in such a way as to move in the direction of a mentally sound way of being. And it's not easy. It can be easy. It's not always going to be easy to overcome something that is challenging for you, that you are struggling with mentally. So you can imagine any one thing that you're going through right now. Anything. You could be totally fine. You know, you could be somebody who considers yourself to be relatively healthy. But if there is some area where there's a little bit of an imbalance, just take a look at that pathway. Take a look at that trail. Notice certain aspects of that trail that you don't like. Right? Maybe in one particular part of the trail, it's very thorny, and that those thorns can be representative of a lack of confidence. Right? So in some instances, you might just want to completely walk a different path and just X out that trail entirely, or allow that trail to be overgrown entirely. But sometimes trails just need a little bit of maintenance. Sometimes trails don't necessarily need you to walk a different path over and over again and to completely forget that one. So you can take a look at these things from a broader perspective. When we approach these things so specifically, especially when there's such a strong emotional charge, again, those emotions are going to be magnified. I spoke about that in my other video. Those things are going to be amplified in your life experience, and then they're going to be solidified even more into your experience. And the longer you go, the more challenging it is to start walking in that other path, because you lose hope. You lose the drive or the belief in yourself and your ability to make a change. When you think a certain way, or when the people around you perceive you in a certain way, they know you to be that depressed person or that whatever person, this is just going to confirm the belief that you have of yourself. So this is another aspect that we want to overcoming your environment. This is another trail that needs maintenance, or perhaps you need to go in a different direction so that you can truly make a change. So when you're focusing, you're hyper fixated on an issue, it can become very painful. You can lose hope, or maybe hope is not the correct word. Becoming aware that you are capable of change. Being in an environment conducive to that thought that you can change, that you're allowed to, that it's safe to, that it's welcome, and that it's possible. And you don't have to suffer so greatly. You don't have to focus on that. Focusing on this issue, worrying, is only going to serve to a certain extent. After that, it can become very toxic. It can become very mentally draining, energetically draining. So this is one source of something that can deplete your energy and perpetuate that state of being, or solidify that neural pathway. These are all just like seeds being planted. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes repetition, it takes time. And things will come up. Certain things have to come to the surface. And when they do come to the surface, you can start to look at this, that which resurfaces, from a broader perspective, from the perspective of, okay, I no longer want this to control me. I no longer wish to be in a depressed state of being. I no longer wish to be in balance in this particular way. I know that I can make a change. What changes am I making? I recall being depressed and just freaking out, spiraling. So we want to prevent the spiral, the downward spiral. So that you can start to observe what you're going through. Maybe with 0% productivity, at least just to observe. And once you can actually have some self-control, you realize that you are in control. A lot of the times these programs make you truly believe that you are hopeless, that you need to rely on all these things that are obviously not working. Or perhaps they're serving you only to a certain extent. But then what do you do? Where do you go? And that is why you have found yourself here on this channel. So I'm going to leave links in the description that you can explore. Please feel free to comment if you have anything that you wish to express as far as what you're going through, what you want to see me speak about for real. I am so open to that because there's so many different avenues that I can take this. Depression is not just that one word, as I've said over and over again. This is just kind of like a blanket statement. So many different aspects to it. So many, infinite. Because we're all so unique, we're all so different. So for me to approach this in this cookie cutter way would be extremely unfair. And not the kind of life ain't fair, so get over it kind of unfair. Like truly rude, crude, and socially unacceptable. I appreciate you for watching. Please feel free to comment. Please feel free to like and share and subscribe and interact so that I can come forth with some answers.